Madam Ambassador, welcome. Thank you for this interview.
Thank you. It's a real pleasure to join you.
The United States, as repeatedly stated, focuses on making sure that the ongoing conflict in Gaza doesn't spread out across the region. I would like to ask you, has this fear been minimized after the fifth trip in the area of the U.S. State of Secretary of State? Sorry.
Thank you so very much. The United States has absolutely been focused since the events, since the horrific terrorist attacks against Israel on October 7th. We have been focused on a couple of core objectives. First and foremost has been to keep this conflict from spreading. And that is what I think you see Secretary Blinken so actively pursuing and so actively engaging in his many trips to the region. We have been working to keep the conflict from spreading. We have been working tirelessly to secure the release of the hostages, to assure that assistance is getting into innocent Palestinians who are in great need of it, and to ensure that Israel can defend its state and its citizens and ensure that another attack from Hamas like October 7th can never be repeated. So Secretary Blinken is in the region, as you note, and has spoken very clearly about our concern our concern to de-escalate and to deter this conflict from spreading. And so we are particularly concerned about the increase in attacks in the Red Sea from the Houthis. He spoke very clearly to this just yesterday. He spoke again to it today. The hundreds of attacks that the Houthis have brought against maritime vessels in the Red Sea since October 7 is both a security threat and an economic threat. And it is not just the United States that sees us this way, but in fact it's the UN Security Council, it's the European Union, it's many other nations that have joined in condemning these attacks from the Houthis. This endangers not just commercial maritime traffic, it is a danger to maritime personnel, to sailors, and of course it is a violation of international law.
Starting from this point, the last one on the Houthis attacks in the Red Sea,
yes.
The Secretary of State talked about possible consequences in case this threat continues. Can you be specific on what he meant by consequences and what could be the response of the US and the rest of the world if this threat continues?
It's a very important point that you keyed in on, and I think Secretary Blinken was very clear that there would be consequences. First and foremost, the United States and so many other countries, both the countries that joined the resolution in the Security Council, as well as more than 20 other nations that have joined in condemning these attacks, have been very clear that there must be consequences if these attacks continue. We are not going to telegraph what those consequences will be. First and foremost, what we want to see is an end to these attacks. We also want to see an end to Iran's support that is enabling these attacks. It is very clear that the Houthis are unable to conduct these technologically. They don't have the technology, they don't have the information, they don't have the intelligence without the support from Iran. So we are calling, as are many nations, and Cyprus has been a very important partner in this, and with the world's 7th largest commercial maritime fleet, the effect of these attacks in the Red Sea, the effect of what the Houthis are doing, has a significant impact both on the maritime industry in Cyprus as well as on consumers in Cyprus, because this is raising costs. It's raising insurance costs, it's raising the cost of goods, it is increasing the amount of time it takes to deliver goods. There are real-world impacts to real-world people around the globe, including in the United States and in Cyprus.
So there is action that can be taken from all the countries you described against those who are responsible for this threat?
First and foremost, what I think it's important for your viewers to understand is that underway right now, there's a coalition of nations in Operation Prosperity Guardian that are committed to assisting maritime vessels and to supporting them, right? There is an important deterrence element in their presence in the Red Sea. Now, the Operation Prosperity Guardian, it's important to note, is it is about exactly that. It's about assisting maritime vessels. It is not a combat operation by any means. But the consequences that you spoke about, the consequences that Secretary Blinken spoke about, that is a separate question should these attacks not cease.
Mm-hmm. Focusing on countries that do not help to the direction of going back to stability and peace in the region. You named Iran. I would like to hear your comment on information appearing in the international press today about the role of Qatar. And information that Qatar, which is the biggest financial supporter of Hamas, did know, when did it know about the attacks of October 7?
So I don't think I have any information to offer you in terms of what was known by the Qataris and when. What I can tell you is that I believe Qatar has, and the United States has publicly spoken about the important role that Qatar has played in the negotiations for the release of hostages. That's been incredibly important. We have seen hostages released. The United States wants to see all of the hostages released. It's absolutely essential. And I think, you know, what this comes down to when we talk about, when I look at the region, I look at so many partners, so many nations that are committed to finding a way forward out of the tragedy of October 7, a stabilizing way forward that is going to offer peace and prosperity and security to Israelis, to Palestinians. But that means integrating the region. That means developing a shared sense of security, and that is so important. There are other actors like Hamas, like Hezbollah, like the Houthis, that see a different path, and that is one that is destabilizing, and that is one that tears people apart, and where innocent civilians are held hostage or are killed. That is a reign of terror, and that is what all of us, I think, together have to so actively combat, because what we see for our citizens, our governments that are accountable to our citizens, is a future of prosperity and security, where everyone can find a way to flourish for themselves and their families.
Talking about those who support these movements, terrorist organizations that you talked about, we do see Turkey in that catalog. And I would like to ask, because the US Secretary of State was in Turkey as well, what news do we have from that direction? Are you satisfied with the responses you got on the role of Turkey in this situation?
In our view, Turkey, like so many of our NATO allies, like so many of our transatlantic partners, there is an opportunity for Turkey to play a very important role in stabilizing this region. Turkey has played a very important role in other conflicts. We see an important role for Turkey in terms of Russia's war against Ukraine. And so we continue to work very closely, because what is important is that we continue to urge Turkey to play that constructive role, and we're going to keep doing that. So
is your efforts towards the relations of Turkey with Greece satisfying to that direction?
I would say the United States has been really encouraged by the increased engagement and the tone and the quality of the conversation that Greeks and Turks are having together. That is, it is their relations, it is their discussion, and it's encouraging. I think it adds to security and stability in this region, and that is so important when we think about the context of everything that is going on, when we think about what is happening directly in Cyprus's neighborhood, when we think about what is happening here on this island, that an improved relationship between Athens and Ankara, I am certain, yields benefits for all of us in the Eastern Mediterranean.
As we discuss stability in the region, one does recall the Cyprus problem, which is another factor of instability, the continuous occupation of the island. I would like to ask you to comment on the new effort believed to be born after the appointment of the representative of the United Nations Secretary General.
So the United States, we have supported the Secretary General's decision to appoint a new envoy to engage with the sides, to engage with the parties. And I think we very much look forward to a discussion next week in the Security Council and to hearing from the Secretary General's special representative and to seeing this new envoy, to seeing her get to work. She's a distinguished diplomat with an incredibly impressive record and background. And so we look forward to supporting her efforts. This is unmistakably, the challenge ahead is real and it is genuine. And we have watched decades of efforts to reunify the island, to reach a settlement agreement that is so important for the people of Cyprus. And it is clear, I've only been here a short time, but what I see and what I hear and what I understand is just how much Cypriots across this island yearn for a solution. And so we will do our part in support, and the question, I think, becomes, as this envoy undertakes her mission, it's important that Cypriots are able to voice what it is that is important to them so that she can see how much common ground there is for bringing people back to another round of negotiations. And she's going to learn best from the people of this island.
Coming back to the war, I would like to ask you the next day in the region. Do you have a plan as the United States on how the situation will be, how peace, if we manage to gain that peace, will be more stabilized in the area, and the next day in Gaza, for example?
So Secretary Blinken has spoken very specifically to this question, and I think it is on the minds of so many that what will happen, and how do we find a way forward that doesn't generate another generation of individuals who seek conflict, but rather how do we create a dynamic of neighbors who live together in peace? And Secretary Blinken has spoken about the importance of integrating this region, of Israel being integrated with its neighbors in peace, in security, and alongside a Palestinian state that is governed by the Palestinian Authority or by a legitimate authority that will carry this effort forward, not by terrorists who hide behind children and underneath hospitals or behind schools, right? What the Palestinians, in order for their interests to be served, the importance of accountable governance is absolutely essential. But it is very much our view that it is integration that leads to the way forward. It is not the destruction that is sought by, again, those terrorist groups that are operating like Hamas, like Hezbollah, like the Houthis.
My final question has to do with Cyprus and the humanitarian aid so desperately needed in Gaza.
Yes.
And I would like you to comment on the initiative of the Republic of Cyprus to transfer humanitarian aid via a naval corridor. How does the US respond to this initiative? Do you see a way forward for that initiative?
So if you'll allow me, I'll tell you that really, not just since October 7, but for many years, for decades actually, the United States has understood just how important Cyprus's role is, particularly when it comes to supporting civilian resilience in the midst of a crisis. Earlier this year, the Republic of Cyprus played such an important role in the evacuation of citizens from many nations, including the United States, who were fleeing violence in Sudan. And that experience, although relatively small in scope, really prepared many of the people who have been at work thinking about the potential for the evacuation of citizens in the current environment. It is the platform that Cyprus provides that is so important to the security of citizens of many nations. And so it was no surprise to me to see Cyprus put itself forward to say, we believe we can help alleviate some of the pressure on the delivery of humanitarian assistance and propose this maritime corridor. It's a corridor that is being tested. I think what we are seeing on our part in the United States, we want to see redundancy. We want to see multiple avenues of getting assistance in. And so we have really welcomed the initiative. We have had discussions in diplomatic channels. We've had discussions amongst our security professionals to think about how to assist with this. There are a lot of variables. There's a lot of complications. We're continuing those discussions because at the end of the day, it's the civilians who live in Gaza, who are in desperate need of assistance, that we need to stay focused on. And so making sure that we have a number of ways to get that assistance in and to do it securely and to do it in a way that both meets the humanitarian need as well as the security needs of Israel. That's the challenge, and that's what we're working on together with the Republic of Cyprus.
And in terms of bilateral relations, Madam Ambassador, what do you think we should expect in this new year?
Well, it is the beginning of a new year, and I have to tell you, I'm quite optimistic about the trajectory of the relationship, the bilateral relationship between the United States and Cyprus. We have an incredibly broad agenda. We are doing more together than we've ever done before. We're doing it in a wide variety of channels where our law enforcement officials working together, our security officials, the National Guard and the state of New Jersey have this partnership which we're really putting to work this year. We are doing more to enhance our commercial and economic ties, the educational ties between Americans and Cypriots. And I'm really hopeful we're going to find ways to increase travel between the United States and Cyprus in the coming months, in the coming years.